Hey there, Data Nation. It's Ryan, and we're back with another episode of Data Driven Demand Generation. Today's topic is GA4, and Al and I take a little bit of a surface level dive into the interface and look at a couple examples. We're not super well versed in it, we're still kind of getting introduced to it, but we did want to just kind of take you through some stuff. We have some laughs, kind of make fun of ourselves towards the beginning, then get into some meat and potatoes, as it were. But we'll be sure to introduce some additional GA4 content later on in the next couple of months as my team develops more custom reports in there and as he gets a little bit more familiar with it as well. Hope you enjoy, and we'll see you next time. Wait, repeat that again. So we were just talking about how somewhat unprepared for this conversation around GA4 we are, but also you said something about how dumb we are. Was that what you said, Al?
Yeah, so I mean, so it's only been 2 weeks now, but I mean, you and I seem to do this thing where we just get on. Like this is supposed to be a channel of us like kind of tossing ideas back and forth and shooting the shit about marketing analytics and not thumping the podium like we are the experts. Here is how it is. And so yeah, and so we have this bad habit just after 2 weeks of we just start talking. And then like after 5 minutes, it's like, oh, this should probably be recorded because this is like the meat of our discussion. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's like we scheduled this talk about Google Analytics 4, and then we were both like, oh crap, that means I have to go learn about Google Analytics 4, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll
because
bet
it's
you that's
really not something we either one of us deals with that much on a daily basis.
right. I'll bet you that's like half of the content creators out there. They're like, oh, like the community is interested in this topic. I don't know anything about it. I'm going to go
Yeah.
research it, and then I'll come back and I'll sound like the expert, and it'll be great.
Or probably like us, they're habitual procrastinators. And so
Yeah.
they're like, well, if I put this thing on the schedule, then I'll have to go figure it out. Otherwise, I'm going to look really dumb.
Right. Especially if I said I was going to do it and then I didn't.
Yeah.
And we're a couple days late on our record date. So hopefully I'll be able to get this out in time for us to keep with our weekly cadence. I think that was the idea. If we can at least get it in like a day or two before it's supposed to go live.
Thus
Of
far,
course,
we have tens and tens of fans waiting with bated breath for each of our
I
episodes.
mean, there's like at least 100 something.
We're on the upswing.
Yeah, we're moving on
Yeah.
up.
Everyone
Yeah.
starts somewhere.
Well, let's just jump into it then. Let's
Yeah.
talk about GA4. We can explore it together. The audience can explore it with us. All 10 of them that are watching today can explore some GA4 stuff with us. For a little bit of context, um, Google Analytics 4 is like the newest version of Google Analytics, which is really like their biggest revamp in quite some time. This actually evolved out of like it was like apps and something was like
Mhm.
another like component. And so they had
Yeah, it
it.
was actually one of the classes I was looking at to try and kind of flesh out the very vague knowledge that I had coming in about this subject. And it's actually spelled out as like, was there a Google Analytics 3? Great question. And there were three other iterations of some sort of Google Analytics ad platform. They were not called GA1, 2, and 3. They had wildly different names based on where they came from. I
Right.
think one was a proprietary thing that was like bought out by Google. So yeah, anyway. So
Yeah.
the fourth iteration, but the naming convention has not been consistent.
Right, exactly. And yeah, so the whatever GA4 is today was sort of like in beta until, let's say, like 4 or 5 months ago when they made the announcement that this was going to be the new thing. And so for all of us who are very much into universal analytics and have been, big fans of using that and have like kind of leveraged it to death for analysis, that is going away about a year from now. I think it's
Mhm.
July of 2023. You'll no longer be able to, I think the data is going to stay around for a while, but you'll no longer be able to track anything through it.
So
And,
that's interesting. I mean, are there people out there that are like crying that, not probably not literally, but that are bent out of shape about this transition to Google Analytics 4? Is UA much loved as a platform?
I don't know if it's maybe much loved, but it just like, I think you get used to a platform and it's been around for so many years
Yeah.
now. Like it's so like in like 2 seconds, I can take you to, like, you have any question about, user experience or, page views, channel breakdown, assisted conversion, whatever it is, like I can jump right to it. And there's something like 30 different reporting tabs within Universal Analytics versus there's like 7 or 10 or something like that in GA4. They're getting rid of certain metrics. They're moving to more of like an event driven tracking system, which I think is like good if you kind of consider some of the previous data, like they're getting rid of bounce rate. Bounce rate to me,
Okay.
one of my least favorite metrics, because clients were always like worried about, oh, we've got an 80% bounce rate on this page. And to me, it's like, well, like if a bounce rate is somebody hits the page and does not, proceed to another page or take a certain trackable action within analytics.
Hey,
But
that
if
was
like
good. I didn't even have to ask.
yeah, so but like if so in that same instance, so the bounce meaning like they came to the page and bounced off, that's the idea. Like they bounced away. They didn't proceed through the website. They didn't take any kind of action. But like if somebody hit that same page and like picked up the phone and called, that's a sale. Or if they completed some other action that like wasn't shown in analytics. So like I feel like it was one of those metrics that was just kind of like everybody was so obsessed with it, and I was like, yeah, but like I don't know, like maybe the time on page was higher, so, other metrics might have been higher.
Yeah, but better for context than for it's not the one number that rules them all.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're getting rid of that, and it's sort of being replaced by the inverse, which is engagement rate. So engagement rate is like kind of like and I'll show you some of this stuff.
I like that. It's just kind of putting a positive spin on it.
Yeah,
They're not
which I
bouncing.
think
They're
is
just decided not to engage today.
right. Yeah. So your engagement rate is low, meaning your bounce rate might be high. I don't know. It is what it is. But yeah. So the new system. Here, let me just pull. I'll share my. Can I share a window? Eventually, we're gonna need to get SoundYard or whatever that thing is.
Yep. StreamYard.
Yeah.
You can do quite a bit with the free version. The paid version is nice though.
Cool. Well, we'll check it out because I think it'll make it like trying to do this via Zoom might be a little bit funky. So yeah, so you have like some familiar sections like acquisition and demographics and stuff like that. And under acquisition, you have some sections that are similar to like the channel breakdown, like traffic acquisition. It shows like the channels through which people find you. This is like the snapshot, like when you kind of first hit the reporting page. So you're going to see like some data. I just wanted to look at the last 28 days for this client who will be blacked out when we end up looking at the details. But, and it's got just like some high level stuff. Now this view is editable. In fact, all of the views are editable as far as I know, to the degree of like you can come in here and you can customize different cards.
Yeah, you can bring in widgets and
which is
KPIs.
That's cool. Which is cool. I like it because with the traditional analytics, it was kind of like WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. You can't really modify unless you want to create custom reports. But even then, you didn't really have like dashboarding as much as you just had like a graph and table underneath. So, now we're getting like a little bit more information, or we're able to customize and show a little bit more information
right away, which is helpful. Like I have one client who it's another agency and we consult them on analytics for their clients. And, he's like, I just want to see like my top page views broken out by campaign. He runs like a lot of DV360 campaigns. So it's like, I just want to see like each campaign name. I want to see the pages and number of page views, and then compare that against like the rest of my traffic. Well, that can be kind of like customized and created to the degree of like we could even create just a dashboard in like say in acquisition. You could just add like a new view that he could go in and see himself. It could be like John Doe's custom view or something along those lines. So that's pretty cool. So I'll just go to like acquisition overview so you can see a little bit more information. Here's some breakouts of some different, these are ad campaigns, these are traffic sources.
And this is all a custom build.
No, this is
for the
just this
customer?
is like
Okay.
out of the box actually.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Now and like this is also customizable, so you can customize these. They're basically loaded up with like default views that has maybe, let's say, 40% of what was there before in Universal Analytics. And then they've got like these different refined sections where you can kind of see that they're focusing a lot more on user engagement. That's like one of the bigger differences. Like sort of user experience is like almost taking priority to like ad impressions and stuff like that, or taking precedence over channel sources and things like that. I mean,
and user experience is measured by engagement. So signing up for the email list, like how many page views, engagement, and yeah.
So yeah, so here's
likes like and whatnot are in social.
Right. Yeah. Likes and clicks and stuff like Google Analytics is so the interesting thing about GA4 is like, whereas with Universal Analytics, you had to create your own custom events in order for those events to like fire. So we had to configure a lot of things within either Google Tag Manager or sometimes the platforms themselves, like say Shopify, would automatically like tag certain events. Like if somebody adds to cart, Shopify would send an event to Google Analytics saying this was an add to cart event. Now with GA4, is actually already sort of like listening for different events. So like any kind of like link clicks and things like that, it's sort of like bundling them up together in its own definition.
Okay. And do you think that's because, I mean, did they just look across their customers and say, hey, for the most part, people are looking for the same things, at least on a kind of foundational level, and then you could tweak it from there?
Yeah, I think it is. It's in some ways to like kind of help folks that might not have that level of sophistication to be able to like go and configure a custom event. It's good and bad, right? So it's like good because generally speaking, it should be accurate. Like if somebody clicks to call, it should create an event that says like click to call event or something like that. It's a phone number, like phone numbers, regardless of what website you're on, that's like that's an event that should be tracked. But like if you wanted to distinguish between different like add to cart button clicks or different like for us, we have clients that have like white papers, they have contact forms, they have newsletter signups. All three of those are like three different actions, right? But they're all forms. You sign up for a white paper by submitting your name and your email address, and when you click the submit button, that's like that's a form completion. Same with a newsletter sign up, same with a contact form. Well, GA4 is going to like lump all those together as like form completion, but we want to break them out into like three separate events. So that's like the downside to it, is like for folks like us who like wants that more custom event tagging capability, we have to like now go a little bit further and like re-envision how those things get tagged within the interface. But I'll show you some of the default events in a second here. So here's like kind of like similar to the previous multi-channel funnel, or not multi-channel funnel, the channel source grouping tab in analytics. It's got like your channels on the left, and then it's got new users here as the first reported metric. Number of engaged sessions, meaning of the new users, like here's how many that like had more engagement, like essentially how many didn't bounce and leave my website, what the percentage of engagement is, engaged sessions per user, which is, you know, this is this number out of this number, I think. And then your time, your average engagement time, which is similar to average session duration on the previous analytics thing. Then you've got events count, which you see there's a ton of different events. And then conversions, which we have to do some cleanup on our end for this. We just installed this back in May, and we're just kind of letting it run for the client in tandem with their universal analytics tracking.
You just installed it for this client?
Yeah, we just installed it for this client in May. And we're like, but we also have the universal analytics code, which is what we're using.
So you're in that kind of terrible limbo where you have to update two different things and brief on two different platforms.
Well, you know, we're not reporting anything out. Like we're just using this internally right now until we can like really feel comfortable with it. Which like we're getting there, but as you can see, like this is too many conversions, I would say, like for all these different channels, considering, you know, we're only reporting like $11,000 worth of revenue. Like the total conversions that we would probably track is probably more in the like hundreds, not 6,500. That's like way too many.
Now, do you find when you change formats or reporting or an entire platform like this, that your customers get like grandpa when you move his TV remote, like they're just, where's my this report, and where's my I don't have my pie chart, but what's going on?
No, I don't think, because our customers don't really, most of them, other than like that one I was talking about, the analytics consulting, the agency that we work with, and then a handful of others, I think that they, like, we send them our own custom reports that look nothing like Google Analytics. It's like we have our own like little dashboards that we create.
Okay, that's interesting. So your customers aren't looking at this directly. You guys are looking at this and then kind of translating it for them.
Right. Or we're using this to like collect the data, and then we'll analyze stuff in analytics. Then we spit out like these kind of high level reports, you know, call it like some line graphs and some bar charts and some other things. That's just like, here was last month's performance versus the previous month versus the previous year, quarter. Here's like our progress over the last few months. But then like the actual deeper insights, the narrative portion of the report, we go into Google Analytics, either UA or GA4, and we use that to sort of like cross analyze, and then that information then makes it into the report. But the client doesn't necessarily see like everything behind the curtain. They're just kind of like, again, like I think we talked about this last time, like they're getting, if we're meeting their objectives, you know, call it 100 leads a month or $10,000 a month in e-com revenue or $100,000 a month worth of pipeline or whatever it is, you know, as long as they're like tracking to hit those objectives, they probably will not get bogged down in these details. And actually the clients that do get bogged down in these details are usually the ones that like we struggle the most with, because it's like, nah, you need some time. Try not to like I had one client who was like obsessed.
They want to over the shoulder and see inside the black box.
Right. Or they would get a report that was like, your bounce rate is 80%. And it's like, they'd send it to me being like, oh my God, what do we have to do to fix this? And I was like, we just generated $1 million worth of sales for you. Why do you care what the bounce rate is? You know, like, let me worry about the bounce rate. And they're getting rid of it anyways. So, you know, it's a thing. But I'm digressing.
You turn around and ask them, well, what's the industry standard? You're the expert. You tell me what's wrong with it.
No, I just don't. It's not that I don't have the balls. It's just like I'm not that quick on my feet to be like,
Yeah.
why are you, I would rather just be like, look, don't worry about it. Here's why, everything's in hand, and then move on.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again,
You're nicer just because those customers directly pay your bills.
yeah, right. I don't know. Most of them I have a pretty good rapport with, or
Okay.
I can push back on them a little bit.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. But so again, I'll say we haven't dived super deep into GA4, in part because it is kind of like this like stripped down version of UA, and also like there's some configurable things. Like you remember last week we were talking about the DV360 program,
Mhm.
how Google Analytics like wasn't tracking the goals, but we knew that it had like a impact on the broader scope of things
Yeah.
for display ads. Do you remember that? Or I mean, we talked for like over an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Google Analytics 4 has like a direct way to import that data. So we're very excited about that, because under the configuration section, or not configuration, the admin section, there's a bunch of new things that we can link into here. You can see like search 360,
Yeah.
display and video 360. So now for those clients, we'll actually be able to have like view through data. So we'll actually be able to see ad impressions that can contribute like assisted conversions, or kind of back to the multi-touch or we just talked about this, yeah, multi touch attribution modeling. We can now see, we'll be able to see like
Marketing mix modeling.
what's that?
Not marketing mix modeling, or I've heard media mix modeling as well. So
Yeah, all
Yeah.
all the acronyms, MMA.
all of those things with M's in them that we talked
Yeah,
about last week. Yeah.
right. Yes, MTA, MAT, VAT, whatever it is. So now we can like
Value added tax.
what? Yeah,
Nothing.
VAT tax,
Just follow on.
European taxing. Yes, all of those things will be able to
Yep.
link into
All relate. All relate.
right. But like, whereas before, like a lot of this stuff we could not integrate, now we'll be able to integrate within the system, which is like really exciting. Like
Nice.
I'm not sure the full scope of the capabilities, but this is the kind of stuff that to my knowledge was not available in Google Analytics before. Like I know you could do
Gotcha.
Google Ads linking and some other linking with the system, but now we're going to have a lot more insights, which is going to be really cool, really powerful. So I'm excited for that component specifically. That said, again, it's like very stripped down version of analytics, universal analytics. So yeah, so I'm just going to pop over to events that we were talking about earlier. So all of these for the most part are created by default by the system. There are some like viewed product, added product. I think no, I think those are the main ones actually. These are
That you brought
inserted.
in yourself.
Yeah, so these we ended up having to create these, and there is I mean there's lots of like helpful videos online. Like my guy Matt from my team actually was the one who like set up this instance, and he was able to like figure out like what the custom scripts needed to be in order to like get the data in there, including like the e-commerce revenue data. But yeah, like a lot of these like page view, user engagement, scroll, session start, first visit, viewed campaign, purchase, all of those are being generated dynamically by GA4, which is something that Universal Analytics did not have before. And under conversions, you have like a system by which you can essentially like toggle conversions on and off based on different events. So these are the reason I think our conversions are so high is the added product piece in particular. This means the product was added to carts. So over the last 28 days, 5,700 different add to carts took place, which is it is a metric that we're tracking because we want to see like if a lot of people are adding to cart but not purchasing, we want to like figure out how can we get them
Yeah.
to the next step. Subsequently, if a lot of people are going to product pages but not adding to cart, we want to figure out what's the missing link there to get more people to add to cart. So it's an important metric, but maybe doesn't need to spill out over into like our master report to the client probably isn't going to say, hey, by the way, we generated 5,700 add to carts. It would probably be like we generated 550 purchases, or
Okay.
people going to the cart or to the checkout page, 130 completed their orders, and
Now, in
subsequently.
your experience, are those rates good for abandoned carts and looks like purchase and completed order? There's a big delta there. So I mean, are those things you expect to see, or is there something there? I know we're going to blank out these numbers for the for the published show, but I mean, what would pique your interest for those numbers there? What's a rate of abandoned carts where you'd say, hey, there's a problem?
Well, I guess it just kind of depends. I mean, ultimately, it's like how much money's going in versus what's the output. But
Mhm.
like we had, that's also like that's like a kind of like a narrower view of performance. So like something like abandoned cart percentages, I think it's really all over the board, and really you have to like determine a lot of things. Like a lot of people abandon a cart because they realize that they're not going to get their product shipped for free. So you have to do some
Okay.
experimentation there. Let me go back to we're going to have to just make this a black screen. Just making a note.
Just trust us. We're playing with GA4 right now.
So go back. I'm just looking at, I just want to look at standard analytics because again, there's like stuff that we're not seeing. So I'll do shopping behavior. So here's a diagram that shows like kind of what I was discussing earlier. It's like, here's all the sessions. This is just for the last week. Let me back this out to the last 30-ish days so that it's somewhat similar. Okay, so you had 5,500 sessions with no shopping activity, meaning they didn't even go to a product page. They might have just gone to a category page. Then sessions with product views, the abandonment rate from all sessions to sessions with product views, or the percentage of people who proceeded through to view a product, was 36%. So 36% of all my website traffic actually like viewed a product page. Subsequently, of the people who viewed the products, 543 added to cart, which I would say is like probably pretty good. I mean, 500 out of 2,000 is 25%. 25% of the people who viewed a product page added to cart. Just anecdotally, I would say that's a good number, right? And then of those people who added to cart, 331 proceeded to the checkout. These are just different stages, like it's in my cart. Now I'm on the checkout page where like I'm seeing my final details. So those from 540, I had over half of those people proceed to the checkout page. And then from 330, I had, again, over half of those people actually purchased. And then down here, you can see like some data on new versus returning visitors, which the returning ones should be quite a bit higher. The sessions are going to be lower, but the sessions with transactions as a percentage of the total should be higher, which it is. You got.
Now, what are the ways that you track returning? Is that still all cookies, or
yeah,
transition to something else?
Nope, it's cookies.
Yeah.
Which, again, stuff that's going away, or at least.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just curious how that's going to be complicated with Google. Is that something you can still leverage, but Google says we're not going to do it anymore, or is that just going to become an industry standard?
Well, no, I think we'll, advertisers and marketers will find a way to get as much data as they can out of everything. I think what's going to happen, just kind of at a larger scale, is I mean, I'm not sure if the US is going to get as tight-lipped as not tight-lipped, but as like restrictive as Europe is
Yeah.
on like data tracking and visibility. There's companies now like, you know, Apple, who have like taken a stance on it, but I don't know, like sort of like at like a political level, you know, like a legal level, if that's going to become a
Yeah.
thing. um but I think it just means it's that much more important to find ways to, as quickly as possible, capture somebody's contact information, because you're only going to be able to predict so much um, using analytics. Like you're going to have to like test different behaviors. So if you can get through to like getting somebody to fill out an email, like a newsletter sign up or something like that, um,
Yeah.
it's just like you have endless possibilities until they unsubscribe to, you know, test market them. um, you know, you can have them fill out surveys. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do to still capture some relevant data that'll help you with that. But until all
Now,
that,
do you have a value calculated for that, for just being able to track a customer? So like, can you put a price tag on this is what the benefit is to the customer to have them on email list in a cookieless universe?
yeah, I mean, we do. I mean, we build out like customer LTVs for most of our clients.
Yeah.
So we have a way, it is kind of more on a per client basis. So you have like a customer LTV, and then you have like a lead to customer close rate. So that's how you would, I guess, back into that number. You
Okay.
would take like the percentage of, and I would just consider lead to be anybody who's given you their contact information in one form or another. So
Yeah,
if
I'm just
that's,
wondering how you incentivize them signing up for the email list. Is it just an appeal that, hey, you're interested in our product? You
yeah,
know, we'll send you offers in the future,
oh
or you
yeah,
know, is there some kind of wet their whistle there that you recommend for getting them on in the first place?
yeah, multiple wet your whistles, I would say. I mean, I think at the very least to have some kind of like we have abandoned cart is like hugely successful for a lot of our ecom clients. So if somebody
Mm-hmm.
proceeds all the way to the cart and they just decide they don't want to buy, but they've given you an email address, then you have the ability to um, in our case, we don't send emails unless they've opted in. But if they try and abandon that page, even if they just scroll their cursor off the page, we have like a promotion that says get 15% off your next
Yeah,
order right now.
before you go.
Yeah, just fill in your email here,
Yeah,
and then, you know, the code will be there on the same page. It's good today. The coupon code is good for today only, you know. And then of course we send them
yeah,
like 5 follow-up emails if they do submit it and they don't buy. But you know, that's one simple way. A lot of people will do pop-ups or like sticky footer newsletter signups where like the sign up box like follows you around. But yeah, I mean, you're just trying to get them to engage with you. Like the big thing about like Web 3.0, which I think we should have be one of our future topics.
okay,
Web 3, Web 3.0, there's like a lot of different, I've been hearing a lot more about it. But the big thing
yeah,
with that is community building. And they've moved away from like a cost per acquisition model, and they moved more to like a cost to join the community model. And in some cases, like organizations are like incentivizing their community by actually like paying them or giving them really
wow,
good deals or something to join their community. um, and then once you've kind of build some brand equity with those users, you know, you can find ways to monetize in other ways. It's more, I think, more common in like kind of the app space and kind of modern, that kind of modern like digital demonetized, dematerialized space. But I think a lot of companies are moving to that also. But we're a little bit off track. Let me see if I can go back to so anyways, this is like one of the, and this like view doesn't really exist as far as my research in GA4 right now.
okay.
Let me go back again. I'm gonna have to like just black out these screens for a second. and these are just the default reports, but so like some of the things are irrelevant. You can see like in-app purchases and publisher ads. These are not
That's not a thing for this customer.
website. You know, the default configuration for GA4 is meant to pull in both mobile app and
Okay.
website data. So I don't know if you can actually delete these, but there's some things that you probably want to like remove if you can,
Yeah.
or just move to like custom reports. But you know, in here you can, this has not like been really fully configured, so you can see there's not like a lot of information available right now. And then under retention, there's basically like you've got new users, returning visitors. You can see engagement over time. This is the last 42 days. I don't know. There's a lot of things that I honestly like, you know, just being perfectly open. I'm still very married to Universal Analytics, and it's just a matter of like me going through and actually learning more. Like right now, I've just been going in and looking at really like tabs where I'm like, okay, I know in general like what information I'm gonna be able to expect on these pages. So like I know demographics is gonna have like geography, gender. It's got like some stuff by these like user interest groups, which are just Google defined groups, age and language. And hopefully it's insightful. I mean, this is kind of an interesting number to me, is like, okay, we're really
the age demographic. Everybody wants to know that.
Yeah. And the gender also is like interesting to me. You know, it's like 70% female in this example. But yeah, I mean, it's
so. Are you? I mean, how are you learning Google Analytics 4? And I mean, do you have like goals that you want to hit? Just as far as you being the boss and you know, kind of driving the train for your staff learning this stuff.
Yes. So I think like step one for us, which is something that we've had in progress, I guess, really starting in May, is we're taking like a select few clients per month and we're creating new GA4 instances for them, so that we can just start collecting the data. So all we're doing is installing GA4 and then setting up the same goals that we have in UA. And that is what drives. And so basically, at the very least, we know we're collecting most of the available data, and we're tracking the goals. And part of the reason is because a year from now, we want to be able to say like we can look back over the course of a year and we can do comparisons year over year. We are a little bit behind because I went on a 5-week paternity leave, and we just had a lot has happened in the last 2 months.
Babies get in the way of updating your tech stack, I think.
They do, but we're making progress on it. And you know, I have like essentially like kind of one person internally who is like our go-to person. I probably should have had him on this call, but he knows more about GA4 than I do, and he's kind of like our subject matter expert when it comes to that. And he's the one that's been installing the new instances and setting up the goals and things like that. Yeah, Matt, I think I mentioned him earlier.
Yeah, awesome.
But yeah, I think the what I'll say is like, this is maybe this can be like just a quick intro to GA4, and then we can have a follow-up later on, because I think right now it's important to just like recognize like there's some similarities in between this and UA. There's a sense of urgency. People need to probably go ahead and just, there is like a migration tool that you can click to at least get some base data into GA4. So you can start tracking that now, so that a year from now, you're not like, oh God, I'm about to lose all my historical performance data and I can't compare anything. And like maybe like when we circle back around on this, we can talk through like a new customized report that we'll hopefully have for most of our clients put together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So I don't know if we don't necessarily want to call this like introduction to GA4, or
Yeah,
should
we
we
could
call
do
it like
that. So I
two
mean,
marketing analysts criticize the new GA4
yeah,
interface?
shoot the shit, like shoot from the hip, and conjecture and kind of vague assertions. No, I am, and I think we were talking before we hit record, is that I listen to a lot of podcasts. Won't name drop them here because they haven't paid me to do so. But yeah, there's a LinkedIn Learning course that I was working on. If I can remember that. And so yeah, just Google Analytics for essential training. It's got 4.5 stars, I think, which is relatively meaningless on LinkedIn Learning unless you see something with like 2 or 3. But yeah, it's a good kind of bite-sized snapshot and just talks through all of the upgrades. So full disclosure, I did not make it all the way through yet.
Okay, I
It's
was
gotten
gonna
away
say
from
if
me
you
as well.
did, maybe I was gonna say if you did, maybe you could walk me through some stuff.
So it's probably a good thing I didn't, because if I had and I was this clueless during the show, it would be a very poor endorsement of that class. But yeah, it's quite good. And the guy, let me see if I can pull up the instructor's name, because I have seen his name pop up quite a bit.
You may have noticed how Google starts
You know, while you're doing that, I
to reflect the
found.
comparisons that we've been building.
Oh, I can
Now,
hear.
Google's
Yeah, sorry, I accidentally hit play. So it's, the guy's name is Corey Coburg.
Corey Covert. We can include the link to it in
Yeah, absolutely.
the description. I also found what I thought was like a pretty nice comparison of the platform by this guy. What is his name? So it's Root and Branch Digital Marketing.
Okay.
And let me go back to this. I'll include the link to that in the description also. But it's called, what is it called? Google Analytics 4 versus Universal Analytics, 6 key differences explained.
Oh, cool.
And he's got like about 1,000 subscribers. But I thought it was like pretty good high level content. It was just 15 minutes and just kind of insightful. He like goes kind of toggles back and forth between the two interfaces and shows some differences.
Yeah.
And I think, definitely I'm sure look at a lot more YouTube videos to get explanations on each of the corresponding sections. And as we're kind of building out, and I imagine too, like between Matt and I and a few other members of our team, we're going to be creating some more custom reporting tabs. The last thing I'll say about this, I guess my it's not a hesitancy, but I am curious to see what happens with data collection, because for all of our marketing clients, we have it's semi-automated reporting, those like dashboards with the narratives I was talking about earlier. And what we do is we actually extract data from Google Analytics API to a Google spreadsheet, and then that data is fed into these different charts and things like that. And so we're going to have to, for gosh, I don't even know how many clients, we're going to have to basically go in and like update all the data sources to make it GA4. And then from there, we're going to also have to like check in, because some of the data may not exist anymore. So very like nervous about that. I think like going back to like kind of what you were saying as far as like priorities for us, for the agency, and for me as the owner, is like day one, let's just like start collecting the data and try and collect like some meaningful data beyond just sessions and city source, stuff like that, like actually get some conversion data in there. And then at some point over the next couple of months, actually develop new reports that feed off of GA4, which hopefully will be in place for the next 10 or 15 years, kind of like UA was. That would be the general game plan. But
yeah, well, I mean, with the amount of time and energy, and I'm sure money that it takes to develop these things, I don't know if this is something that's going to like other things in tech is going to kind of increase the rate of evolution. But I can't imagine that even Google can really be revamping this thing from the ground up terribly often. I don't know how long it took GA4 to get developed, but I know it wasn't a quick process.
No, for sure not. Well, cool. That's about all I got. I don't know that it makes sense to share much more until we've really gotten our hands in there.
No, I think we've got the proverbial nose under the tent.
Yes.
There's nowhere to go but up from here.
Right, exactly. I hope our audience, all 10 of them, as we mentioned earlier, it gives us some good feedback. Even if it's just like, you guys really need to do more research before you put.
Yeah. We've got a couple. We've got a couple. There are people talking. So
yeah. Well, I thought last week's was good. I think we really explored a lot, kind of centered around the multi-touch attribution. I thought that was good, and maybe we can even do a follow-up where we do some screen shares to like kind of talk through visually some of those things too, because I think it's fun to talk about, but also fun to like show more examples.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that topic as well, once we get some momentum going, I mean, that's, my whole section, that's what we do. And so, yeah, I can definitely bring in some far better experts than me, or I'm sure you, on that particular subject, to talk intelligently. We can kind of rub our chins thoughtfully and say and on and ask targeted questions.
Exactly. Perfect.
Someone else can supply the volume of content.
Yes. Tell me about strategy.
Yes.
And
very interesting what you said about that third thing.
Yeah, what was that thing that you said that was brilliant? Oh man. Well, what should we talk about next time? What should we talk about next time?
That is a good question. What about what's one of the kind of connected? Do you want to keep going with platforms? What about one of the like Google Ads or DV360? Or do you think it makes more sense to kind of pull back and do something a little less techy?
I mean, I like the ethereal stuff, but I imagine that people are also interested in kind of more tactical things. I'd really like to, I mean, I definitely would like
the tech stuff is way more clickbaity.
Yeah.
As you well know from the history of this channel.
Let's see. Because there's
like
going to
that
be some
logo on there
follow-ups
and a flashy clickbait title, top 10 things I hate about Google Analytics 4.
I was just looking at well, here I'll show. Have you used TubeBuddy at all?
I have not.
Because I was I'll share my. So TubeBuddy is kind of cool. This is talking a little bit to analytics and just kind of like pulling in like mass. So this is like based on search data within YouTube specifically. So TubeBuddy is like a tool that will allow you to see all sorts of different performance metrics. I use it for the data-driven channel. I've used it to come up with a few topics that I've talked about that are in the marketing space. So I'll like key in different keywords. And John David, actually, shout out to him. He's the one that introduced me to this tool.
Oh, cool.
And so like what you can do is you can play around with different terms. And I think it's really interesting to, you're talking about communities. Like YouTube is a great place to establish communities if you are, regardless of what space you're in. I was actually like looking for something for a client because I was like, maybe there's some interesting content that they could, do videos about, because their website's like all text. And I'm like, we need we need to mix in some more interesting media. But I just kind of played around and like searched around, and what it does, it'll give you like a score based on like the general search volume, how much competition there is, and like how optimizable it is. They've got different like tutorials and stuff in here. But I think it's maybe we should do one on keyword planning, because I think between like this and just like Google Trends and a few other like the Google Ads keyword planner, just like those 3 different tools, you could kind of get an idea for how to optimize, like how to select different types of keywords based on like your hypothesis of what people are searching. And then subsequently, from there you can monitor. You can use tools like if you're doing SEO, like SEMrush is a great tool to monitor both like paid and organic performance for different keywords. And you can see some of that data in like Google Search Console and Google Analytics. So maybe we'll mess around with that next time. What do you think about that?
Yeah, sounds good.
So we'll do like 3. The subject would be something like 3 keyword explorer tools to dominate search.
Let's do it.
All right, and we'll do some samples, and then we can like look at, maybe we could like pick a example company and like do a little bit of research. It'll be kind of a fun
Sure.
how to. Cool. All right, let's do it. All right, I think that's about it. Do you got anything else for right now?
Sounds like a show, man. I think I'm looking forward to what comes next.
Yeah, man, me too. That was fun. Okay, talk to you soon.
Yep. Bye.
Yeah.